Welcome back to our channel, everyone. Today is a truly wild day, a day where the truth finally catches up to the lies hiding in the dark. Our news team is running on pure caffeine right now, just staring at the screens as the updates roll in. We are diving straight into the biggest, messiest scandal to hit Port Charles in years. Buckle up, because this is a rough ride. So let's go back to the beginning of this absolute nightmare. The horrific car crash on Route 91. It was a disaster waiting to happen. Jordan Ashford and Curtis Ashford were in their car, and they were distracted. Very distracted. Jordan took her eyes off the dark road to passionately kiss Curtis, which is reckless, totally reckless. But then she looks up, and there's a car coming right at them. She swerves. The car goes off the road. It crashes into the branches beneath the railing, and it catches on fire. A massive, terrifying fire. Curtis and Valentine Cassadine had to literally function as a two-man walker to drag an unresponsive Jordan out of the burning wreckage. It was a literal life or death situation on that dark highway. But there was so much more happening on that road that night, because Danny Morgan and Charlotte Cassadine were out on a joyride. Danny wanted to go fast. Charlotte let him drive her car. They were involved in this mess too. And Carly has been aggressively covering up their involvement, getting the car repaired in secret, hiding the truth from the cops, because that is what Carly does. But this report is not about Carly or Danny or Charlotte, because there was another driver on Route 91 that night, someone who had been drinking, someone who made a terrible, life-altering mistake that is going to shatter an entire family. And that someone is Brook Lynn. She was at the grand reopening of Charlie's Pub. She wanted to support Giovanni Palmieri, she wanted to see him play his music, but she drank wine. The cameras literally panned over her empty wine glass at the pub, and then she got behind the wheel, which is illegal and stupid. So she is driving down Route 91. She is tipsy. Her reflexes are slow, and she hits the guardrail hard, but she does not stop. She keeps driving. She flees the scene of a massive fiery accident and just leaves people out there in the dark, because she was terrified, not just of the crash itself, but of the breathalyzer. She knew if the cops tested her, she would fail. And if she failed, her entire future would go up in smoke. She and her husband, Harrison Chase, had just been conditionally approved to foster baby Phoebe. It was their ultimate dream. A baby in the house. A real family. And Brook Lynn knew a DUI would destroy that instantly. So she ran, like a coward. She went home and she panicked. And she confessed everything to Tracy Quartermaine, which was her second biggest mistake of the entire night. Because Tracy Quartermaine does not do accountability, Tracy does cover-ups. She goes into full crisis mode. She looks at Brook Lynn, who is racked with guilt and crying her eyes out, and she lays down the law. She demands absolute silence. She tells Brook Lynn that she will never ever breathe a word of this to anybody, not to the cops, not to the public, and especially not to Chase. Tracy enforces a strict ironclad cover-up. She thinks Quartermaine money and power can bury absolutely anything. Even a hit and run that left the deputy mayor burning in a ditch on the side of the highway. But Tracy underestimated the Port Charles Police Department, and she specifically underestimated Harrison Chase. Because Chase is a good cop. He is thorough. He cares about the truth more than he cares about wealth or status. So Chase is out there at the crash scene on Route 91. He is looking at the skid marks on the pavement. He is looking at the burned metal. And he is searching for clues. Because the math is not adding up. The angles of the crash. The timing of the swerve. Something is missing from the official narrative. And then he finds it. A piece of debris hiding in the dirt near the guardrail. A fragment of a headlight. It is shattered, but it is intact enough to identify. Chase picks it up. He looks at the make. He looks at the model. And a cold, terrifying realization washes over him. Because he knows cars. And he knows this specific headlight. It belongs to his wife's car. It belongs to Brook Lynn. The sheer horror of that moment must have been unbearable. The man is standing at a crime scene, holding the physical evidence that incriminates the woman he loves. So Chase takes the evidence, and he goes straight to the Quartermaine mansion. He does not wait. He does not hesitate. He walks into that massive historic house with a heavy heart, and he confronts Brook Lynn. He holds up the shattered piece of the headlight. He tells her exactly where he found it, on Route 91, right next to where Jordan and Curtis almost burned to death in their vehicle. And he asks her the hardest question of his life. He asks her if she was there, if she hit the guardrail, if she kept driving while people were dying in the woods. And Brook Lynn just crumbles. The guilt has been eating her alive for days. She cannot lie to him anymore. Not when he is holding the proof. She looks at the headlight, she looks at her husband's devastated face, and she starts crying hysterically. She confesses everything. She tells him about the wine at Charlie's pub. She tells him about hitting the guardrail. She tells him how scared she was of failing a breathalyzer, how terrified she was of losing baby Phoebe. She admits that she caused the damage and ran away like a criminal. But before Chase can even process the fact that his wife just confessed to a major crime, the doors fly open. And Tracy Quartermaine storms into the room. She is furious. She is agitated. She realizes that the secret is out and the cover-up is falling apart. But Tracy does not apologize. She does not show an ounce of remorse for Jordan or Curtis or the pain they suffered. Instead, she immediately tries to shut Chase down. She steps between the cop and the suspect, and she starts throwing her massive weight around. Tracy literally tries to buy Chase's silence. She uses her power. She uses her money. She tells Chase that he needs to drop this investigation right now. She tells him that this is a family matter, not a police matter. She offers to make this all go away, to fix the car quietly, to pay off whoever needs to be paid off. She thinks she can just purchase a clean record for Brook Lynn, because in Tracy's mind, the rules do not apply to the Quartermaines. They are above the law. They are untouchable. But Chase refuses. He is disgusted. He looks at Tracy like she is out of her mind. He tells her he is a sworn police officer and he has a duty to the law. So Tracy pivots. If she cannot buy him, she will break him. She starts threatening him. She threatens his badge. She threatens his career. She tells him that if he dares to arrest her granddaughter, she will use every political connection she has to ruin his life. She will have his badge stripped. She will make sure he never works in law enforcement again. She is vicious, absolutely ruthless in her defense of the family name. But here's the thing Tracy did not know. Chase was not the only cop working this case. Dante Falconeri was already 10 steps ahead of everyone. Dante is incredibly smart. He has been digging into the Marco Rios murder, sure, but he's also been looking into this crash. And Dante does not just look at the road. He looks at the mechanics. He looks at the body shops. He follows the money trail, and he followed it right to a shady mechanic that Tracy hired to fix Brook Lynn's car off the books. And Dante did not just find the mechanic, he found the smoking gun. Dante secretly gathered an audio recording, a crystal clear tape of Tracy Quartermaine giving direct orders. On the recording, you can hear Tracy's voice perfectly. She is explicitly directing the mechanic to destroy the evidence, to scrap the damaged parts of Brook Lynn's car. To make the dents and the paint scrapes completely disappear into thin air, it is textbook obstruction of justice. It is tampering with physical evidence. And that is a straight up felony. No way around it. So Dante takes this recording. He takes it straight to acting district attorney Justine Turner. And Justine does not hesitate for a single second. She listens to the tape. She looks at the evidence Dante gathered. And she signs the arrest warrants immediately. There is no Quartermaine privilege today. The law is coming for them. The police department mobilizes. A fleet of squad cars heads straight for the Quartermaine estate, sirens blaring, lights flashing. It is a full-blown police raid on one of the most powerful families in the entire city. Back at the mansion, Chase is still arguing with Tracy. Tracy is still screaming about ruining his career and destroying his life. And then the front doors are busted open. The PCPD swarms the living room. Dante Falconeri walks in badge in hand, looking completely serious. He looks at Tracy, he looks at Brook Lynn, and he announces that he has active arrest warrants for both of them. The shock in that room must have been deafening. The sheer disbelief on Tracy's face as she realizes she finally lost. Dante walks right up to Tracy Quartermaine. He reads her Miranda rights. He tells her she is being arrested for obstruction of justice and tampering with evidence. And then he puts the handcuffs on her. The great Tracy Quartermaine, matriarch of the family, forced into steel cuffs like a common criminal. She is probably screaming about her lawyers, demanding to speak to the mayor, threatening everyone in the room with lawsuits. But the cops do not care. The evidence is on tape. She's going down, hard, and then it is Brook Lynn's turn. Dante looks at her with pity, but he does his job because he has to. He arrests Brook Lynn Quartermaine for leaving the scene of an accident, for a hit and run, and for driving under the influence. The handcuffs click around her wrists. Brook Lynn is sobbing uncontrollably. She's looking at Chase begging for help. But Chase cannot do anything. He is a cop. He knows she broke the law. He has to stand there completely helpless and watch his wife get hauled away to the station. But the worst part of all of this, the absolute tragedy of it, baby Phoebe. Brook Lynn and Chase had just been conditionally approved to foster that sweet little girl. They were so close to starting their family. Ned Quartermaine was just talking about how eager he was to have a baby under the roof. But now it is all gone. The social worker is going to see these arrest records. a DUI, a hit and run, obstruction of justice in the same household. The state will never place a child in that home now. It is over. The hope of adopting Phoebe has vanished into thin air, destroyed in a single night. Because Brook Lynn decided to drink a glass of wine and get behind the wheel. Because she decided to run instead of face the music. And because Tracy decided to lie and bribe instead of telling the truth. The Quartermaine arrogance finally caught up to them in the worst way possible. And the collateral damage is massive. A broken marriage, a shattered adoption dream, and 2 women sitting in jail cells waiting for bail. Meanwhile, over at General Hospital, Jordan Ashford is still recovering. She's lying in a hospital bed, feeling terrible guilt because she thought the whole crash was her fault. She thought her kissing Curtis was the sole reason they almost died, but now the truth is going to come out. Now she's going to find out that Brook Lynn Quartermaine hit the guardrail and caused the chaos that forced the swerve. The anger that Curtis and Jordan are going to feel when they hear this news will be absolutely off the charts. And what about the rest of the town? Jocelyn Jax is out there investigating Carly and Valentin, suspecting them of mixing business with pleasure. Carly is busy covering up Danny and Charlotte's joyride on the exact same road. Everyone in this town is keeping secrets. Everyone is covering up for a car crash. But Brook Lynn is the one who got caught because she left a physical piece of her car at the scene. And because her grandmother was too loud and too arrogant on a recorded line with a mechanic. So what happens next? The legal battle is going to be a complete circus. Tracy will hire the best defense attorneys money can buy. She will try to get the audio recording thrown out of court. She will claim entrapment. She will claim it was illegally obtained without a warrant. But Dante is a smart cop. He knows how to cross his T's and dot his I's. The PCPD has an airtight case this time. And ADA Justine Turner is not going to back down from a fight. She wants a conviction to prove a point. It is just a mess. A complete unmitigated disaster. We are sitting here at the news desk just shaking our heads at the sheer stupidity of it all. You cannot outrun the truth forever, especially when you leave pieces of your car at the scene of the crime. Brook Lynn Quartermaine thought she could protect her future by running away, but in the end, the running is exactly what destroyed her future. She lost her freedom. She lost her baby. And she might just lose her husband. Stay tuned, folks. This story is far from over.